Welcome back to the Hustler Circle, 3 Minds, 1 Mission. I'm very excited today. We have our first client on the podcast. Ralph Sanchez of Ralph Sanchez Law is visiting us today. He's going to talk a little bit about what we offered and services we offered in 2024 and how that helped him scale his business to new heights. And now, as we shifted into 2025, how learning about credit and business financing and lending has helped him kind of scale to new heights. So I'm very, very excited about this conversation. We have ambitious entrepreneurs who come on to our podcast, and you're one of those that, from the moment I met you through a friend, actually, it's given me, some excitement when we first started the business this time last year. So I'm gonna hand it off to D just to do a little bit of his perspective, but then we'll kick things off and have a great conversation. So anybody tuning in, make sure you hit the follow and like button, and we'll also post all links and share socials for Ralph's firm. If you're looking to get one of the best attorneys in South Florida, but he also has opened offices across the entire state in the last couple months, we'll link those in the bottom, and really excited to get you guys access to him if you need him. So D, what are your thoughts about today's conversation?
Well, we met Ralph. Well, you've known Ralph for a while, but yeah. I met Ralph last year through our business, and at least for us, and fast forwarding to today, I think it's a really cool and surreal moment. Considering that Ralph, maybe you didn't even realize at the time, I don't know if we told you, but you were one of our first business funding clients from when we started. So I already had the knowledge and understanding of the credit, obviously, which we went over, time and time again, but connecting the dots from the personal credit and how that translated over to business funding and business products overall, I think was a really cool way to kind of see you be able to grow your business. And, fast forward a year, maybe you can let us into like where you were at maybe more or less this time last year and where you're at right now, how maybe business funding and those type of products have helped you accelerate your runway or extend it. And like, what are your thoughts overall on the engagement that we did?
All right, guys. Well, thanks for having me on. I did not know that I was actually one of your first clients.
Yeah. Surprise.
And,
surprise.
I guess it's an honor to be the first client you guys have on your podcast. Yeah. My name is Ralph Sanchez. I'm the president of the law office of Rafael Sanchez. We do personal injury, criminal defense, and traffic tickets. Let me take a step back. So in 2023, there was some big law changes in the state of Florida when it comes to suing insurance companies, which is what I do, right? So I looked in the mirror and I said to myself, the way I'm doing things, I'm going to have to change it. And how I'm going to change it? I'm going to have to scale up. I'm going to have to scale up quickly. And, eventually I need to take the firm national, right? Because things are getting harder and harder and more competitive here in Florida.
Saturated.
Very saturated. And the law's against us, basically,
Yeah.
Not to get into politics, even though I did, try to run in politics myself in 2024. But the way the laws are built here now, everything's very insurance friendly, right? So what I ask people is, think about your homeowner's insurance. Has it gone down? Right? Nope. Keeps on going up, and they're making it harder and harder
to actually get a claim.
If they get a claim, they get paid. The whole thing. Same thing with the car accident stuff. People always ask me, "Hey, if I file a claim, is my insurance going to go up?" And your insurance is going to go up no matter what, so you might as well file the claim. Anyway, I digress. So I linked up with Chris, and Chris said, "Hey, I'm going to help you raise $200,000 in funding, so you can reinvest in your company." What I like about Chris and I like about Dimitri is one of the things they asked me when we were talking about this stuff is they wanted to make sure that I wasn't over leveraging myself and that I was making these aggressive investments that they were calculated, right? That I was going to make my money back. I remember Dimitri being like, "Hey, are you sure this is going to work?" They looked at my credit, thanks to my parents and the way I was brought up, I have really, really good, strong credit, but I've never learned or knew how to use it.
Yeah.
So they take you down this roadmap. So the first one is, and I don't know how detailed you want me to get into.
No, as detailed as you want.
Yeah. Okay. I'm an open book, right? So basically, step one is they look at your credit and they do any credit repair if necessary. Then they tell you, Chris specifically at the beginning lines you up with credit cards that you can apply for with 0 interest, right? and that aren't going to affect your credit score.
Correct.
Which is the most important part. Again, a first generation Colombian, old school Hispanic parents. Don't go into debt.
Yeah. Don't even don't open up any credit cards.
Don't open up any credit cards.
Cash.
Exactly.
Only cash.
Exactly.
Cash is king.
No debt. Exactly. So Chris sees my stuff. He's like, man, you have no debt. And I don't even think I have a personal credit card.
No, you did.
That's
You
right,
actually
that's right,
didn't have a
that's
personal
right,
credit
Yeah,
card.
you're like, hey, you guys gotta
that's
do this.
right.
Everything's through the business, right? So he walks me down the roadmap, and I think, we go with credit card 1, credit card 2, credit card 3, credit card 4. So again, old school Hispanic way is like I've only ever had 1 or 2 credit cards.
Yeah.
But now I have 10, right, with $20,000 to $30,000 worth of 0 interest credit.
Each one.
So each one. So now I got $300,000 to play with.
Yeah.
Right. Not only that,
We also got
I was gonna say after we opened up all the credit cards, then they set me up with a banker who got me a line of credit for another $150,000.
And I think, everybody watching this will like get enamored with the amount that we got you. It was something over 350 or 400K in total. And I'll check the numbers and I'll plop it up here later. But to be honest with you, it's every use case is different. Every client is going to utilize that money that we get them access to in a different way. In your case, we were very specific because one of the first conversations me and D had was, we're going to get you the funding, but what I don't want is in 12 months for you to come to this office and scream at us because you invested into something that wasn't going to return that 300K threefold, because you want to pay that back and then you want to get access to capital again. So that's one of the core pieces that I take out of like phase 1. Phase 1 is, are you going to utilize the money and how much do you need? And we went there and a little bit beyond because you had other ideas of expanding the firm and getting more access, for marketing, et cetera. So give me a little bit about the experience is great, but like, what has it been afterwards? What have you been able to achieve, with the access to the capital?
Okay. So, again, what I would say the biggest difference between going to a bank and going to these guys is they don't want you to fail, right? The bank's job at the end of the day is just, hey, pay interest.
Yeah, exactly.
And then after a certain amount of time, hey, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if you defaulted.
Yeah.
Right? Because then we can take whatever collateral you have or anything like that. So for me I was able to expand the office, right? I was able to get more staff. I want to say I got like an extra 10 employees. I have another physical office in Fort Myers.
Nice. And
I have 4 virtual offices, and, my revenue went up almost $1 million.
Wow. So 300K, you opened up, a couple of virtual offices, expanded to a physical office on the West Coast of Florida, and your revenue went up $1 million. I mean, I would say that's a win.
Yeah.
But definitely. That's only the beginning, right? Because now
only the beginning, because in my business, the turnaround time is 6 months. So,
yeah, what you're working on today, you built in the summer of last year.
Exactly. So I withstood the 6 months, right?
Yeah.
I didn't go out of business.
Yeah.
I was actually profitable. I was able to pay off all the credit cards. So if you look at these guys are going to kill me afterwards because I have no debt on any credit cards. I paid off the line of credit in 3 months.
Yeah.
Right. So I have no outstanding line of credit.
And then maybe now you can get a bigger one with another bank that we were talking about before.
Exactly. And I can start the whole cycle again, right? Because now they know, now the banks are going to have confidence in me. One of the issues I ran into when I was trying to get the line of credit is I do personal injury. The majority of my practice is personal injury. So we don't have billable hours. So it's not like you come to my office and I'm like, hey, pay me $100,000,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any billables. And the company doesn't have any collateral. We don't really own a building. Well, not yet. I don't own a building. There's no physical possessions they can take from me if I default on the loan. So that's why, even though we moved around a lot of money, they were scared to give me anything more than $150,000, to start out with.
Which is that's where we're at right now, because you don't have the building yet or the physical things for it, like EIN funding. But understanding that, it's like, okay, cool. Maybe you can get the credit cards, you can get the line of credit, and then now not only are you building that score and that business credit, but you're also building the internal score with each of the creditors. So now you have a much better relationship with Chase than you did this time last year, or with whatever the other creditors
Bank
that
of
we use.
America.
Bank of America.
No,
Wells
100%.
Fargo.
Yeah, and then when they see like a credit card company like Amex, they'll just start raising your limit.
Yeah.
You know, I remember one time with Chase, it was the first experience I ever had. I think my limit on that card was $30,000, and my operations manager accidentally put a charge for 50 grand.
Yeah.
And they
And
covered
They
it.
let it
They
go.
approved
They let
it.
it go through. Yeah. Yeah.
They approved it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the whole way through.
Yeah, and that's all trust. And it's a like, you know, D and I always say this, you know, with anybody we work with, folks who work in our company, it's like trust is a leash that only gets longer the more you kind
less
of
you pull
like
on it.
the less you pull on it. So in that kind of setup, the banks operate in the same way. Obviously, they hide a lot of these credit cards. Like, and
We showed you on the apps. Remember the apps?
yeah,
Supposed to be like,
like
hey,
you have
find
to
it.
like click 5 times to find these
100%,
cards.
yeah.
Why? Because they don't make any money off of them. But what they do get is access to clients that they can like get them to do the platinum card, the gold card, the plum card on Amex side, or you know, Chase actually has a very high limit card. It's like a charge card. It's called a Chase Reserve or whatever on the business side, and they give you like $250,000, $300,000 limits. And I'm like, sounds awesome, but you're paying 28% interest every month if you don't pay that off. So it's like we have a client. We actually have a client right now. They're paying down their debt. Like they racked up that card to 180 grand. Wow. And like they got to pay 40, 50K in the next 5 months in order before they close the account. Yeah. And I'm like, geez, like Christ. I'm like, what are you spending 180K? But then I see it. You can purchase. You can put a down payment on a building. You can do a lot on that card because it has no limitations whatsoever. So it's every person is different. Every client is different. I think the trust that you build with the banks get you access to it. Now, 12 months ago, we were obviously, you know, engaging with you without letting you know that it's the first time. You know, you actually were like the 4th client, but you were the first big, you know, professional client. Everybody else was like a self-employed. They had, you know, $8 million in revenue, but
this is all news to me, by the way.
Yeah, we don't want to tell you.
But it was just them by themselves. So
my friend who recommended these guys failed to disclose that.
Yeah, but the friend, I'm like,
he got taken care of too.
I've known since I've known since I was like 8 years old. So like,
I know.
And you've known him since you were like born.
Our mutual friend. Yeah. So again, he vouched for you, so I came in. You know, but not asking many questions.
But I'm glad he did. So now, if we fast forward to today, we're also doing SBA loans. So we've gotten like our business has expanded outside of, you know, getting the 0%. That's every client we work with, we start there. But if you have tax returns for the last 2 years and you have a real business that has profit and stuff, like we can get you access to 5, 6, 700,000, $1 million. We have a client that we're working on $2.5 million SBA. I'm like, so there's capabilities that we have today that we've learned over the last 12 months that have put us in a position to continue to scale this business. And it's exciting because every client and use case again is different. So for clients like that, you know, folks are watching and they're looking to understand a little bit more about the funding. That's what we want everybody to learn, is to learn when they leave this program. They leave with something. They can contact us anytime. You've texted me at 10 o'clock at night and I answer, and I'm like, and that's how we operate. We're very connected to our clients.
Yeah, and the thing is too is that like, yes, he got access to funds. Yes, we got paid. Cool, everything worked out. But for at least for us, and we always touch on this, the most important thing for us when we're having these engagements is the long-lasting impression that we have on the clients in terms of the education. So like when he's mentioned like, yo, I kind of learned a lot of shit about the credit that I didn't know before, that to me impacts me in a positive way because that's the goal here. Maybe we don't do funding year after year, but now he knows that whenever there's anything credit related, whatever question, maybe it's big or small, it's on the same spectrum, and he's only going to call one of 2 people, either you or me.
Yeah.
And that to me, that trust and that rapport that we've built, yeah, maybe we don't speak every day, but when push comes to shove and there's any types of questions, he's not going to even think about calling anybody else because he knows that the honesty exists with us here.
And then, so Ralph, let's shift back to your scaling and stuff. So one of the pieces that I know, because I have a handful of friends that are in firms or have started their own firms and are in a similar position as you, is attracting clients and scaling. You know, I would say you, like what you do has the most limitations in the ability to like market what you do sometimes, certain restrictions depending on the type of law you practice, et cetera. Just talk to me a little bit more like how have you navigated attracting clients and scaling the firm all at the same time while hiring people. And I know the financial piece we touched, we kind of helped there. that helps kind of give you the capital injection. But like, what's been the biggest shift there?
Yeah, look, so I would say when I first started, the hardest part of opening up your own business is lack of money, right? But unless you're independently wealthy or, you got there's all those stories too. But, I wasn't one of those stories. So at the beginning, I always tell people I started in the guest room in my apartment. I didn't have any assistants, right? And my first assistant was my wife. Well, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. So marketing and networking is how I got all my clients at the beginning, right? Word of mouth, going to events, going to every free event, putting yourself out there, almost like knocking on doors. Once I started making a little bit of money, then I went more into the traditional marketing, right? Traditional marketing for me is like TV, radio, the billboards, which is also rapidly changing, And for instance, when's the last time you watched cable television? Do you know what I mean? Like
I haven't had cable television since 2016.
Exactly.
That just gives you.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's crazy. Yeah, it's changed so much. So, now with the funds I have now, it's more, marketing, having marketers on the ground, paying for lead generation services, investing in the website. What you guys are doing here is awesome. This is something I want to do next. The podcast, the more on social media, that type of engagement. But client acquisition in my field, in personal injury, I have to say personal injury has to be the most competitive field of law in Miami-Dade County. You're competing against lawyers, you're competing against marketing companies, and then the lawyers have one set of rules and regulations. And the marketing companies have another set of rules and regulations.
Which I've noticed that like there are these marketing companies that like they're like lead generation companies for injury attorneys, but they are not affiliated with that attorney, but they send leads. I guess they're I
correct. They're allowed to do that. So what they do is they register.
Which is so interesting.
Yeah. So attorneys are regulated by the Florida Bar, and the Florida Bar says all those companies have to do is be registered with them. That's it. So like, let's say you get into a car accident and you go to a website and be like car accident lawyer, and then you click on the website and you call someone, more than half the time it's not going to be an actual attorney. It's a lead generation. So what they do is they answer the call and they'll transfer you to one of the attorneys that they're working with at the time.
Got it.
Nice.
That's interesting.
So as for scaling up is the hardest part, right? So I'm in the service industry and all of my fees are contingency fee based. So, I'll give you guys an easy example. Let's say I settle a case for $300,000, right? So when I'm on my own, no assistant, no overhead.
Yeah.
I settle the case for $300,000. I get an attorney fee for $100,000, right?
Yeah.
$100,000 on one shot is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
yes.
So now you got to battle, right? You got to battle what do you do with that $100,000? It's very easy to just pocket it.
Yeah.
Or how much do you reinvest?
Yeah,
Should you hire an assistant?
That sentence right there is what separates you from not every other, because there's obviously people that get their degrees and become entrepreneurs, but I see so many people get their degrees and then they think that's where it stops. And they think because they got their degree for this, that, and the other, but you have your degree and you have your entrepreneurial spirit and you've combined the two. And that's the reason why you keep scaling, because of what you just said. You make the profits and you don't screw it off by doing X, Y, and Z. And
buying a Urus.
Yeah, like
at
just
the first time.
Exactly.
Just things that people do. Because when, like you said, you came from humble beginnings, like myself, like Chris, like we've had to do this ourselves. So if you haven't been there before and you start making a large amount of money, it's very easy, especially in Miami, to do what? Screw off the money, $500-$600 dinners every night, $4,000 car payment, this, that, and the other. And then before you know it, your highs can go as quickly as your lows can come, So at the end of the day, I think it's super important to always reinvest and do what you're doing, because like you said, also the marketing today or worked the last 5-6 months, it might not be working the next 4 or 5. So 100%. What are you doing also in that time frame? You're testing. Okay, this worked, this didn't. I took a little bit of an L here, but I got a W here. Let's put some more money into this. Let's test this. Let's get feet on the ground. Let's get people knocking on people's doors. And then now you're in a position where you have 10% revenue because of these marketing methods, 25% because of this, referrals, boom, boom, boom. And then now you have an empire almost that you're growing.
Yeah, 100%. That is diversification. I cannot stress it enough. And I get it. And it's human tendency, right? It's human tendency to like, so what I tell people is one of the reasons I decided to go on my own. So I would say, not to go on a long tangent, but I would say I'm different in the sense that I didn't grow up wanting to have my own business, right? No one in my family has their own business. My dad worked at the airlines for 35 plus years. Like, you know, I'm the first entrepreneur in my family, right? Here in this country. And one of the things I would tell people is it's very easy to get comfortable. Make yourself uncomfortable, right? So even when I was on my own, it's very comfortable, right? And very easy to be like, hey, it's just me and my wife. I only have to make X amount of money. You know, we can save or whatever. I don't have to have an office and all that stuff. I don't have to have a lot of staff. You know?
Yeah. But you limit yourself with that mindset.
That's the other, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So people get very comfortable. So another thing, you know, when Chris sent me an outline of today's interview, one of the things I talked about, or I like to, like, you know, especially, I'm only 37, but I already feel like there's a generational gap.
Yeah.
But this whole thing about work smarter, not harder. What I tell people is, you know, do both. What if you're working smarter and harder than everyone else?
Agreed.
Right? So like you said, Dimitri, hey, what I'm doing today doesn't mean it's going to work 6 months from now. You know? Now, you also got to control stress, because as you get older, you know, and you control that by, you know, having positive habits. You know, if you're out all night partying, you know, fucking getting fucked up all the time, excuse the language, whatever. You know, how are you going to wake up the next day for an 8 a.m. meeting? How are you going to call a client? You know, exercising is important. It's a big problem we have here in this country. So.
And you know, the crazy part is on Monday, we actually had a conversation with the staff here on that same thing. Not that anybody's doing it. It's just we've given the freedom of folks to kind of pick what hours work best for them. Why? Because we want them to ensure that they have time to go to the gym. And if they're early birds, right, and they want to go to the gym in the morning, then come here at 10 and then work from 10 to 6 or 10 to 7, whatever the hours that they want to work. But that time frame, they come here and they're clear-headed. They're not drunk. They're not like, it's not Monday and they have a hangover from partying all weekend. When they come through those doors, they're dealing with our clients, and our clients need them to be at 100% every time. And it's the same, it's a mindset thing. And we have a lot of young folks who work in our business, and that tuning of that machine, it takes a little bit of time. Because I'm like, they're starting to scale with the business, they're starting to make more money. So they're seeing it through the lens of like, oh, I can party more. I'm like, I'm not trying to limit their ability to party. No. I just want them to learn how to separate that when they come here.
No, it's just also different mentalities too. Yeah. Like for real, there has to be a point in our lives where we separate ourselves from people that are not of the same mind frame. Like it might sound messed up, but like I'll give you a prime example. There's the tax relief for the 2020 and 2021 1099 employees right now, where they're giving people like the PPP, $5,000, $6,000 a pop, whatever. So I have a client, she did the form fill, and she goes, "Hey, I'm wondering if I'm going to get back this $2,500. And I go, look, whenever the government disperses the funds, boom, 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 whatever. And this, like the next statement she told me really dawned on me, like just people in general. She goes, I want to know if I'm going to get the money so I can know if I'm going to buy concert tickets or not. And I'm just thinking, I'm like,
what?
It's hard for me to really digest that and understand someone's train of thought at this stage of the game. Because if you were doing that at 21, 20 years old, cool. But you're almost 40 years old now, wondering if you're going to get your tax credit or whatever the case may be, so you can buy concert tickets. And it's not to say that's higher or beneath or whatever the case may be, but if that's your focal point, that's the things that you're focused on right now, I can't even understand how to dive into that pool. Yeah. I'm not there right now. So it's so important to have that entrepreneurial spirit, even after we continue to hit certain milestones. So like we've hit certain milestones from just last year to this year, but in our heads, we have to continue to pretend as if those things didn't exist, if they didn't happen, if they didn't occur, because once we reach one milestone, what's after that? The next milestone. And we have to have that same train of thought, that same focus, so we can be in a position where we always have the chip on our shoulder. And that's probably something common between the three of us, is that we didn't grow up with incredible means or a trust fund or someone to fund us, when we want to start our business. Everything was done from the scratch and from the bottom. So we're in positions where people cannot dupe us or gaslight us or give us smoke screens or whatever, because we've been through the shits. Like we've been through super deep. And that's why when I see things like this and I'm like, damn, this guy's got more offices, he's got more employees, he's got more this. I'm like, damn, I want to do that. And that's that's having like a healthy dose of jealousy, where like I'm not jealous in the sense where like I need to have those things for me, but like now I want to level up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then when I level up, I want you to know that, and I want you to level up more. And that's the type of people I'm trying to be around right now. Not the ones that are like doing the same things they were doing 15, 20 years ago.
No? Yeah, 100%. I always say, if you're not growing, you're dying, and that's the way I see business. That's the way I see my business. Yeah. Right. So my next goal would be to try to go national. You know.
And if I had to ask you, and I know it's a loaded question, like what has prevented you from going national, or like what do you feel like right now as you're thinking about that strategy? Like what would you need, or what would you want to do to go national? Like what's missing? What's the missing link?
Oh, so in legal, it's easy. Like I would have in the United States, because this is only something we do in our country. Each state has their own set of laws, so you would have to get a license. Yeah. In each state to practice.
Would you be the one representing in those states, or you have to do your bar in those, or you would hire attorneys that are part of the firm that are in those states?
Either or, but I'm actually in the process of getting my license, and I already have a partner in Texas.
Oh, that's awesome, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I know because of my Florida, and we touched upon this in the beginning of the podcast. It's like, it's very insurance friendly. And the interesting part is not only is it insurance friendly, but the consumer itself is the one that is limited. So like I have the insurance,
it sounds like you've done some research.
Yeah, in your mind, like I own properties. I'm like, when I moved down, I used to be chief customer officer for a couple of Fortune 500 companies. So when I moved down, one of my attorney friends was like, you need to get gap insurance because they'll come after you. They'll Google you. Like some of these firms that are like not you, like they're representing the insurance. Like they'll Google you and they'll be like, oh, this person has money. I'm going to take everything. Right. I had no idea that was a thing, because I'm like, I'm here in Jersey paying like $15 a month for insurance because no one sues each other up there. And I come back to Miami. It's like, no, you have to have like $250 insurance for your car because you're paying $100 for Gap, to cover for stuff that you had no idea like it was necessary.
No, 100%. Here in Florida, the more you have, the more insurance you need.
Yeah.
Right. But here, the problem is that through the spin cycle, they make you think that your insurance rates are going up because people are suing the insurances because it's the attorney's fault.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that what we're doing is representing you and your rights, right? Like you pay this premium every month. Mm-hmm. You finally have to use the insurance, and now they don't want to pay.
Yeah, it's wild.
So no, it's wild. It's beyond wild down here.
It's crazy because I'm like, we have clients that we just got an SBA loan for one client that actually started with us in October. One of the hurricanes wrecked their house. They're on the West Coast, lost both vehicles, the house, all in like a 24-hour period, and the business was flooded. So it's like, I was like, I don't even know where to begin with this client. I'm like, I'm so sorry, but we were able to get him access to 0% capital, which got him through the renovations of the business. And then we just got him an SBA loan for $150K. But this guy was like calling me on Saturday when it was funded, like crying. He was like, brother, like this is, I'm so grateful. I would love to have him on the podcast. We'll get him soon. But it's like that. I'm like, he's still fighting the insurance company. Like he has flood insurance and standard homeowners insurance, and they're telling him that the water levels were below what's considered flood. I'm like, what does that even mean?
No. It gets.
I don't even know what that means.
No, it gets worse. In 2023, they passed a law here that says, let's say you file a homeowner's insurance claim, right, and your roof gets blown off, and for some reason they don't want to pay right away, right? So now you have to hire a lawyer. Before, I would sue on your behalf, right? Win the case, and then the insurance company will have to pay my attorney fee.
Yeah.
That is no longer the case. I have to take a cut of whatever you're gonna get.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that case that you just told me, is a prime example. Like, thank God for you guys that you guys were able to get him funding, because number one, it's taking a long time.
Yeah.
Right. And number two, even after the lawyer wins the case, lawyer's gonna take a piece of whatever he could recover for the client.
Yeah. So they're not gonna get
So how do you
full.
make up the difference? They're never gonna be made whole, right? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
And the insurance company won't pay for a little bit more to cover your fee.
No,
which is
absolutely
is just wild.
Absolutely,
it's
not.
crazy. And look, you're the expert. I don't know how you do it. My brain would be going at 1,000 miles an hour trying to figure out how to make that work for my client. Because ultimately, that's what you're trying to solve. You're trying to represent your client's
100%
rights. and they're just being like clearly like
what about
burned in front of them.
client engagement? Like how, like obviously you see with what we do with the consulting, it requires a lot of reciprocity and push and pull with the clients. So like, do you ever have issues with engagement with clients with what you do?
I can honestly say, like, you know, we live in this world. Like, look up my Google reviews. Like, we have awesome. I think I have a 4.9 right now, and the only reason I don't have a perfect 5 is because one pissed off client didn't want to pay back her medical bills, and she wrote me 2 bad reviews.
No, you want to have bad reviews. You want to have bad reviews.
No, I know, but I'm saying this one client wrote 2 bad reviews, and Google wouldn't fix it.
That's
the same
perfect.
person.
You don't want to have all 5-star reviews because then you look like a scam.
Yeah.
I look, so right now on Credit Supreme, we have over 1,000 verified reviews on Google for credit repair, which is super shady. We're at 4.8, which is amazing considering the industry that we're in. But it got to a point when we had our first 200 reviews. I got a call one day like, hey, all of these reviews are 5 stars. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And they're like, oh, you know, are you sure these are all real? I'm like,
yeah, how much are you paying these people?
And I'm like, I mean, no, I didn't get 200 of my friends to write reviews. But then after the call, I'm like, damn, person's kind of right. Does kind of look suspect. So when I got our first bad review, I always respond to the reviews. That's number one. You have to always respond to
100%.
reviews, good or bad. There's nothing else. But when I got my first bad review, I was appreciative towards it because it allows consumers to see that we're fallible as well. Because maybe we did shit the bed. Maybe we did drop the ball. Maybe we did, not do the work completely. So even in the bad, I try to see a glass half full because it shows that, we're susceptible to making poor decisions as well. So I wouldn't stress the bad reviews. Honestly, they're good.
No, that's great, man.
Yeah.
I'm still working towards that level
that mentality.
Exactly. That level of mentality. I remember the first time I got a bad review, I was about to pull my hair out because I tried to do everything. Because I tried to do everything for the client. But anyway, no, client engagement is good. I would say something we're working on now more is, like I said before, what you guys are doing here now, like this type of engagement.
Content is fire.
I mean, and you have so much
content.
nuggets though to educate clients on or potential clients on. I think law is purposely ambiguous, right? For folks like yourself to come in and provide subject matter expertise. So anybody watching this, don't think you can Google something and you're going to understand it the same way you WebMD something that you have a symptom, all of a sudden you have cancer or something. That's not the case. Yeah. Like go to the experts. I guarantee the moment you start trying to do law by yourself or medicine by yourself, like you're going to fail, period, full stop.
Yeah. Or even what we do with credit repair, right? Like even as petty as that may sound, because as an example, you send in the wrong documentation to the bureaus and now by accident, you verified or validated a debt.
Exactly.
And instead of it coming off after the 7 years that for whatever reason people think, it's actually 7 years and 6 months from the last payment made. So then what happens? You call in to verify yourself or validate yourself over the phone. And then now you just essentially shot yourself in the foot by resetting that timeline unknowingly. So being proactive is different than being reckless. You know, so like when it comes to sensitive things, like I'm not going to go outside and go change my oil in my car right now. I'm not going to do it. Like I don't know how to do it. I'm not going to try, and I'm not going to screw my car up. So I will go to someone or a place that knows how to do it. The same way, if I have a legal issue, I'll go to an attorney. Or if I was a consumer out there and I had credit related issue, I would go to someone that has the reviews and the notoriety and the things attached to get me to a better place. And all of these things, the processes, the marketing, the content, they're all interconnected to give the client that understanding and that comfortability that they have with handing over what? Sensitive information. Like, people were just involved in a car accident. People just had someone die in their family and their finances are through the roof. So they're in a very emotional place in terms of like getting out of the hole that they could possibly be in at that moment. And we're here to help them get out of it or help them move forward.
Yeah. I would say to touch on that, 100% what you're saying. When I first went on my own, I did all types of law. And one of the calls I got actually was people being sued by the credit card companies.
Yeah.
Right? And that little nugget that you just left.
That's what we're doing next, by the way.
I'm sorry, what?
That's what we're doing next, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that little nugget that you left right there about, hey, people accidentally calling or picking up or like it's been 7 years and they give too much information, all that stuff. Big one.
Yeah. And there's a lot of consumer finance like laws now that prevent like creditors from calling you 100%. or posting incorrect information every day. And I was reading yesterday in the New York Times, there was an article, it's like 30% of information on the credit bureaus is inaccurate. 30%. It's not 0.5%.
No, it could be more.
And that's the average.
It could be the spelling of your name, the day of the year you were born, the balance on one bureau reporting on one credit card versus the other two, like the reporting date being X when it should be Y. Like
we see it though. Like there's my wife is a perfect example. When we had just gotten married. We got married in Miami, went back to New York. We lived in New York at the time, and we literally get back and she has a collections letter for an account that was opened in 1986.
Yeah.
So the account's been open since 1986. Carolina, last name Fernandez, right? Same name, same everything. The social security number is off by 1. It hit her credit report. The late payment and the collection, everything hit her. And she goes, so she calls the creditor and she's like, I'm like, number one, I was born like 2 years before 1986. So it's like, how in the hell would I have an account from 1986?
Yeah,
like, how is that possible? Oh no, you have to file a police report. It's like, for what? Like, no one took my credit. So she didn't verify anything. I told her, just hang up. And then we called one of my boys who's an attorney. I'm like, you need to send like something to these people. They send a letter back saying, oh, sorry, we misput the information on the wrong profile. But that happens every day, and people just leave it and they pay it.
Yeah.
They'll call you and people pay. It was like $1,500 to take it, and it wouldn't come off her credit report. It took like 60, 90 days after they sent the letter that we had to send another letter from an attorney, and then they took it off of her credit bureau. But it tanked her score like 200 points.
Yeah,
like
100%.
And she's like, who is this person? Like, and that happens every day, and you have a lot of consumer protections now that help. And that's what Dee was kind of alluding to. We're going into this space because we see 15, 20 clients a day's profile. And I would say half of them have incorrect items on there, misspelling of the names, addresses that they've never even been at.
The core issue, honestly, for me, it comes down to the respect, because I believe it's called the Fair Debt Practices Collection Act, or FDP, CPA, something along those lines. But the same way the credit bureaus have rules and regulations to follow, the same way that creditors have rules and regulations to follow, collection agencies have rules and regulations they have to follow. And the problem is, and I've been doing this long enough where I've seen almost everything under the sun, and I've had clients show me voicemails where, like, a collection agency, some people in God knows where they're at, calling a client of mine saying that we're going to arrest you if you don't pay this debt. So if that's the tone that you guys are on, and that's the temperament you want to be on, then perfect. Let's use the law on both sides of the spectrum. You want to do that? Okay, cool. So what we're trying to do is now we're trying to get into a position where any of our clients that have been touched or reached out to in outside of the boundaries, or if they've told the collection agency that they're at work, please contact me, right? If they've overstepped any boundaries, get a lawsuit on your hands from our attorneys. Boom. And then now collection agencies are forking up $500 to $1,000 per item per bureau for the client.
Per interaction.
And now not only, because the other thing is too is this, you got a petty ass medical collection, right? Which probably they're not allowed to be on your report anymore. But let's say back then you got a collection, you paid it. They're going to still report the collection as $0 versus just delete the collection. You already got paid. You weren't even the original debt holder. You bought it for pennies on the dollar. You made a bunch of profit on it. You got the client to pay you in full, and you're still leaving it on there as a derogatory mark. So I think this year we're going to be focused not only on the funding, but going back to the credit repair, we're going to be focused on attacking the creditors that are operating in bad faith, as well as the collection agencies, to help the consumers.
That'll be interesting.
That's great stuff, guys. Yeah. Like, well, people, like, the other day, someone told me that they were using ChatGPT to franchise their company.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm like, man, think of it this way. You want to hiring a lawyer, because if something goes wrong, you want to have someone to sue. Right?
Yeah.
Who are you going to sue if your thing goes wrong? ChatGPT?
No.
And then all these credit card companies, they have their lawyers, they have their team. Like, people need to reach out and have their team. You guys are here to have their back.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And ultimately it just goes back to we're putting the client first. And I think that's, if anybody watching got something out of this conversation, it's entrepreneurs focus on scaling their businesses through providing the right client experience. Ralph obviously does that for his firm, and I'm excited to see where you expand to nationally first. I guess Texas hopefully is the first place, knock on wood. And then we'll be there, alongside to kind of like shepherd anything you need, but then also root you from the sidelines. It's been great to see you continue to scale so much so that, I wanted to have you on today. So we normally end each of the podcasts with a rapid fire hustle round, we call it. So I'm going to shoot a couple of questions to you. Let me know if you're game to do that.
I am game.
All right, cool. All right, so what's the number one productivity hack that you have going in 2025?
Work harder and smarter.
Nice, yeah. Not just one or the other. What's one business book or resource that's changed your perspective?
Pat Riley's book, The Winner Within.
Ah, love it. Give me one of the biggest lessons you learned in 2024.
The how to leverage your credit.
And what's one thing you wish all new entrepreneurs knew?
How to leverage their credit.
Perfect. And let's go a little bit more personal. So what's your go-to way to decompress after a long day?
Working out. I still love hitting the gym, working out. I read somewhere, that it's the best antidepressant since, it's the best one.
Yeah.
You don't have to, a lot of people are on meds now. So.
Well, that's awesome, Ralph. Well, look, for, again, anyone tuning in, we're going to put Ralph's information in the section below. We'll also share this on our socials and tag his firm. But we were super thankful for having you on the podcast today, man. And it's great to hear from the horse's mouth how their experience with us has been. And none of this is staged. So this is a great conversation. And we really, really, really hope that you continue to scale in 2025. And we'll see more of your stuff on socials. And thanks again for coming on board.
No, thanks for having me, guys. And last thing I'd like to say is they didn't ask me to be on the podcast. I asked to be on their podcast.
Yeah,
so
true.
That's how great of an awesome experience I had with these guys.
No, and it's a pleasure having you. And again, hit the follow and like, share this if you really enjoy content like this. We actually have 2 more clients coming on later this week.
Yeah.
So by the time you watch this, you'll probably have another set of weeks of clients kind of sharing a little bit of their experience, but also how their business differentiates from everybody else. Thanks again and have a good one, guys. See you on the next one.